All right, let's talk about the Colorado Buffaloes. Obviously, Coach Prime doing a great job getting this program heading in the right direction with what he's done so far. Now all eyes are on the offseason. What will Colorado do to try and build out the rest of this roster, doing what they can to build off of the loss, of course, of the great Sanders and Travis Hunter? Quietly, no one's really talking about it. Really solid start to the offseason for the Buffaloes. We got some great news on that. But first, I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Coach Prime in this Buffs program had a really solid 2024, a little bit of a disappointing end, but momentum is obviously behind this program. Now it's all about how they build off on that. How do they fill out the rest of this roster? Finally building a deep, talented, legitimate college football playoff contending roster. And it looks like the Colorado Buffs are in a great position to do just that. Let's pull up this latest report here. We'll talk about it more on the other side. This is courtesy of Athlon Sports. Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes have been extremely active in the transfer portal following a 9-4 season. As Colorado looks to take the next step for a potential Big 12 title and college football playoff run, the transfer portal has been a clear priority. On Tuesday, the Buffaloes received a commitment from Texas State defensive lineman Tavian Coleman for Pete Nakos at On3 Sports. Sanders and the Buffaloes have welcomed 15 transfers to the programs, including one 4-star prospect and 11 3-star recruits. 11 3-stars, that'll build out the roster. Nice depth there. They currently have the number 21 transfer portal class in the nation per 24/7 Sports. This is a great strategy by Coach Prime. Obviously, top heavy a little bit with guys like Hunter and Sanders. Now it's about building out the rest of the roster, and they're doing a great job executing that strategy. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Buffs fans, in the comment section below, what's one position group you think Colorado really needs to address this offseason? Obviously, next quarterback is clearly important, but let's get away from the quarterback. Is it O-line, D-line, wide receivers, DBs, linebackers, whatever it is, running back room? Give us the one position group you think Colorado brutally needs to focus on this offseason to take the next step. Put it in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on this latest news for the Buffs?
Yeah, Nick, I think Deion Sanders, he has a really unorthodox strategy for how he builds teams, but you can't deny the results, what he's been able to do so far. If you watch this channel for any length of time, you know that we talk about teams need to be built, through recruiting, through local recruiting. You focus on the very hyper local guys, then you start to branch out slowly, branch out slowly. That's how you build a strong base of recruiting. That's how you build a strong base of just talent on a roster. Then you break out regionally, nationally, and so on. Then you kind of just use the transfer portal to fill out your roster. And that is, for the most part, what I think is the best way to build a team. But there's obviously always exceptions to the rule. And I think what Coach Sanders does is definitely the exception. And I don't think any other coach out there right now can do it the way that he is able to do it. Because if you look at how he has broken down this recruiting class so far, 4 guys out of Florida, 3 guys out of Texas, 2 guys out of Georgia, 2 guys out of Tennessee, only 1 guy out of Colorado in this recruiting class so far. Sanders can really recruit anywhere that he wants as far as that goes. We've seen him. He's pulling all kinds of great players. Julian Lewis, obviously, a guy out of Georgia, really great player there. Great quarterback, potentially come into this season for the Buffs. But then you see what he does in the transfer portal. He can't just convince younger kids to come into this program and be inspired by Colorado. He also gets these veteran guys, the guys who've been around a while. He's able to consistently bring them in and fill out immediate holes on the roster. What did he do last year? He brought in like 6 or 7 offensive linemen through the transfer portal, got those guys in, and immediately turned around the front offensive line for this Colorado Buffs team. They did a lot of great work on just building the trenches up through the transfer portal and getting key pieces to build on for the future through the recruiting process. We're seeing it again. He's really hit the transfer portal hard. As I said, 15 guys brought in so far, on top of some really strong recruits. I think there's 9 100% committed recruits, 5 guys that have also signed their letter of intent. They're still working on their way coming as well. So I think this is a really good class by Deion Sanders. Albeit it is unorthodox, not something that we usually say is the best way to build the team. But Deion Sanders, he is the guy that can make this work.
Yeah, I think we live in an era and we have to understand this. Obviously, Coach Prime, Colorado, they understand this too. The guys that are running smart programs, which the Buffs have become over the past couple years, understand this. The world they live in, the NIL world, the transfer portal world. Colorado obviously does not have the dollars to spend the way top 25, top 20 blue bloods do. If you look at according to 247sports.com, in terms of where Colorado is ranked in terms of NIL collective dollar spending, they're right there at number 46 with $208 million. If you go look at the top 10, working our way down the list, right? Number one is Oregon, 969, A&M at 849, Texas Longhorns 766, Florida Gators 763, Georgia 700, right? It's just a different league. You're not going to be able to compete just on terms of crazy amount of money. And I know a lot of people, when they think NIL, they think transfer guys. NIL, in my opinion, and all these dollars, that's how you win recruits, right? In this new national world of recruiting, it's all about who can get you the biggest money. Hey, come to our school as a freshman. Here's $1 million, right? That'll win you over some 17-year-old kid. Coach Prime understands they don't have the dollars to do that, right? They just don't. Obviously, the Florida Gators, the Georgia Bulldogs, right? The Oregon Ducks, all those different programs, they can outbid Colorado for any potential NIL collective. So, what does Coach Prime do? He doesn't beat his head up against a wall trying to just sell himself to 16, 17-year-old kids saying, hey, come to Colorado. You'll have a chance to go to the National Football League. The kid's like, well, that's true, but I can do that if I go to Oregon, and they'll give me $1 million more if I go to Oregon. Instead, what Prime does is he looks for opportunities to bring in guys through the transfer portal, right? Guys who maybe aren't getting the money. Because when it comes to these NIL dollars, a lot of that's spent on recruiting, a little less is spent on the transfer portal. That's kind of the dirty secret right now. The opportunity to get your most bang for your buck is through the transfer portal, especially when you get away from the massive big name guys, right? Obviously, the top 5, 6, 7 transfers, they're having money thrown at them. But everyone else, there's an opportunity to spend a little less dollars, a little less time, and reap a big benefit. That's what we're seeing from Coach Prime. I think it's a really smart strategy, especially when you consider, as luck would have it, or just by design, that's what Colorado needs, right? Obviously, they won a lot of games with the top heavy Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders roster, but long term success is going to be predicated on surrounding Lewis with a deep, talented roster, offensive line, defensive line, running game receivers. That's how teams win. That's how you win a conference championship. That's how you get to the college football playoff. A deep roster. You can't win with 2 or 3 superstars. You can be competitive like Colorado was, but to win titles, you need a deep, talented roster. That's exactly what Coach Prime is starting to build this offseason. And I think going into 2025, the Buffs will once again surprise people to the upside. I think the way things are going right now, obviously Lewis is a freshman, a lot of concerns there, how he'll adapt to the game. But if he does a good job, this team is a serious contender to win the Big 12.